I had 4 fibroids, which is also another thing that plagues women,
especially black women.
Especially black women.
Endorphins and dopamine and all the good stuff.
Oxytocin,
serotonin.
Oxytocin? No, serotonin. Yeah,
serotonin. Oxy is heroin.
Oh, serotonin. Yeah. My bad. This is Shannon and Max, and you have tuned into In Our Bag, Winning, Wealth, and Wanderlust podcast. On this episode, we talk about social, physical, mental, and time wealth. The second part of our 5 types of wealth series. So the next type of wealth is social wealth. You know me, Max, I'm not really big on social, but I do understand why a social connection is important for a lot of people. And so when you're looking at social wealth, it's really looking at every connection that you have coming into your life and really looking at it from a value perspective. Right. So not only from the effort that you make to establishing social connections, but what are those social connections like within your life? So, I mean, what do you think about social wealth?
Well, I think it's valuable. And even though you say, that you don't put much into, that you don't really care about that one, I don't think that's true, because even though you may not have a huge circle of friends or, be really into social media and stuff, you still maintain the relationships that you have. Like, you and I have been friends for 20 years. Your friend from St. Louis, you've been friends with her for 30 or whatever years, you know what I mean? Yeah. So just because maybe your idea of social wealth is different, you're maybe a quality over quantity people. And I feel like, you value it differently. It doesn't mean that it's not an important aspect of your definition of wealth. I think you do value the relationships that you have, your intimate relationships, your family relationships, and all those are part of it too,
Right. Yeah. And I think to that, okay, since you put it that way, to that point, I think I have changed over the years, right? Mm-hmm. I think early on as a child, I was very much a loner. As I started to play more sports, I started to be more social.
Right. That's the one good thing about sports. They say it helps you build your social, for real. It helps build social skills and stuff.
Absolutely.
Like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then when I got to college, I think I was just blown away by so many great Black people. HBCUs will do that to you.
For sure.
And so I think, how I approached my connections with people definitely changed. My experience changed. And so I think that did cause me to think about those social interactions a little differently. So I think I was a little bit more open to that social wealth or those social connection aspects. Didn't always make the best decisions about the people that I did let in the circle. Right. And so then you start to evaluate and, make that circle a little smaller. But you're right. I've had friends for years, over 20 years, over 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. And those people have been a staple for me. So I have a few friends in St. Louis actually that I've known over 20 years, and I can talk to them today, or I can talk to them 6 months from now, and it's like we pick right back up, like it's nothing, right? And it still is some genuine, true concern and true connections and value in those relationships, and the same thing for family. So I mean, to your point, you're right, and I think. From a social wealth aspect, it's like, really the main 2 things are what you're looking for, right? Does this connection meet my ongoing emotional necessities? Like, so, is it valuable to the point where I'm getting what I need from this social interaction? Is it positive? Is it meaningful? Whether it's a daily interaction or not. overall, is it good for my emotional well-being?
Right.
And then the second thing is, does it provide me confidence in my ability to meet my needs, whether that's currently or for the future? And I think, if I were to apply those two things that they say social wealth ultimately is out to accomplish, then yes, it does have some value or meaning to me then.
Right. But the other part of it, in terms of social wealth, is how they say it's not what you know, but who you know.
Right.
So a lot of people put a lot of value, even in terms of building financial wealth or your career success, or those type of things, in terms of properly having a proper network and using that network to your advantage, to accomplish goals, or to learn, or to mentor, or whatever. And I think that's one thing. Like, I've met a lot of people who I probably should have nurtured those relationships more, and didn't have the skills or wherewithal, or the understanding, or even didn't see value in those relationships at that time. And that's something that, sometimes you think about that, like, damn, like I met this couple one time that wanted to invest in something that I was doing, and I never called them back. So it was like, like, damn, like, why you ain't called them back? Just even stuff like that, that you miss out on opportunities because of your lack of social skills, or your lack of seeing value in maintaining relationships, or all sorts of things. So so I was just linking that to how that connects to your financial wealth in terms of your social wealth.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. And I mean, that's a very valid point. The linkage between social and financial. And I do think in many cases that's an afterthought. Like, we don't really, and I don't know if that's also a generational thing with us. Because even when you dive, like, we're doing a podcast, right? When you dive into the social aspects of this and the social media aspects, how those things are also intertwined and tied to financial success, right, or the finances of things, right? And so if you can have the best podcast, or you can have the best content, you can have the best.
We do, obviously.
Right. Check. But if you have the inability to socialize that, then the connections and the value. And on the flip side, those who may be listening to this or hearing this are benefiting from the social aspects to also draw the value of the information that's being shared. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we'll find as we look at a lot of the different aspects of wealth, in many cases, they will intersect, right? There will be some dependencies on the others. So that's a very valid point. I had not even thought about it like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when we look at physical wealth, though, right? Physical wealth consisting of fitness, health, and vitality. I think what sticks out the most, at least to me, when you're looking at physical wealth, is probably the fitness and health aspects of physical wealth. We can think of it as, exercising, so making sure that we're moving daily. Nutrition. How are we eating? Are we eating more natural foods, more organic foods? Right. We've all heard the saying, garbage in, garbage out, right? And so our body very much works off of fuel, much like a car does. And, when I'm thinking about where I'm going to stop to put gas in my car, like, I'm very cognizant about making sure that, I'm going to, and one would argue what's a reputable gas station, but I'm just saying you're cognizant about what you're putting in your car. And so we should also be very cognizant about what we put into our bodies.
Right.
Sleeping habits, making sure that we sleep well, as well as, you know, trying to make sure that we also not only do these things, but we also have methods and ways of restoration, like how we restore and repair our bodies. A lot of that all has to deal with the physical nature, so far as fitness, eating, and sleep. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, you want to talk about a trifecta. That's the ultimate trifecta as it relates to physical wealth. What do you think about this type of wealth, Max?
Well, I recently started paying a lot more attention to taking care of my body physically. I was always like an athlete or whatever, but probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago, like I started consistently going to the gym, and I immediately noticed changes in how that makes me feel and how my body functions.
Right,
And I have peers and family who just have physical ailments or issues, whether that's from old age or whatever. But it's like, you know, if you move consistently, get your heart rate up every day, and try to eat, for me, I try to eat 70% healthy stuff, and that's on a consistent basis, right? Like, I'm not going to
right,
say that I don't eat sweets, I don't have sodas, but on a daily basis, I've changed my eating habits so that I am allowing myself. And most days, it's probably more than that, but I'll just give myself 30. Like, yeah, I'm going to have a Snickers sometimes, and that's fine. You know what I mean?
right,
Like, I'm going to have a soda sometimes, as long as I'm doing that in moderation. Like, I don't drink sodas every day. So this is when I
right,
started making those changes. Like, you really, really do notice those changes just notice changes in your body, like whether that's to lose weight, if that's what you need to do or want to do, or whether that's you want to be able to walk up a hill without being out of breath. I mean, so I think it's very important, for people to keep that in mind when they're thinking about creating an overall healthy and wealthy lifestyle. I think the physical part is very, very important. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Health is definitely wealth. We've all heard that before.
Yeah.
But that has definitely become the utmost importance for me recently. When you're younger, you think you're invincible. And the older you get, you start to learn that's not the case.
Right.
And so for me, I was unfortunate about a little over a year ago. I really had a significant health incident, and, not exercising as much, not eating healthy, not getting the appropriate amount of sleep, and then combining the stress of my job really took a toll on me. And it all kind of accumulated. And, one day, one night specifically, I wind up losing my hearing in my left ear. I just lost it all of a sudden. I suffered with vertigo really bad. And in addition to that, in the process of running numerous tests on me at the time that all of this happened, also discovered that I had really low hemoglobin levels. And a lot of that, some would say that my hearing loss may have been caused by the low hemoglobin levels. And just to put it in perspective, Black people tend to have, specifically Black women, tend to have low hemoglobin counts anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's typical. And at the time that I was checked into the hospital, my hemoglobin, I think, was at like a 5.1, which is like danger. Close. Anything below a 7 is dangerous. And the hemoglobin is what allows, just to sum it up, is kind of what allows oxygen to flow through our body to pretty much provide oxygen to our organs. And without that oxygen flowing to organs, your body, because the body really is it's amazing how the body works. It is a machine,
right.
Literally. It will have to make decisions on, okay, I'm low on oxygen. Which of these organs am I going to continue to try to provide oxygen to? I mean, no kidding.
Damn.
Right. And so to this day, they don't really know what they're not 100% sure. Let me put it this way: what caused the sudden hearing loss, which ultimately was severe to profound hearing loss, which really classified me as being deaf in my left ear. But they believe that it could have been the low hemoglobin. The reasons why I was having a low hemoglobin count, and I don't mind sharing this because, the other aspect of this for me, as I've been on this long journey for health recovery, in the last 10 months, I've had 3 surgeries. One of them was a cochlear implant surgery. So I did go through that so that I could restore some of my hearing in my left ear. I can tell you I've gone from like 7% of speech recognition to now 85% of speech recognition, which is huge. Because when it first happened, really, I was only hearing 7 out of every 100 words.
Damn.
Yeah. So going from normal hearing to, it wasn't good. And when I take this device off, I go back to that level of hearing. So having the device on at least gives me the opportunity to hear 85 of 100 words. So that's been good for me, but it's been a long journey.
Right.
And part of what was causing me to have low hemoglobin counts was, and this is not a comfortable subject, and you and I kind of talked about this. We don't really hear people talking about this, but this is something that plagues women, and it plagues a lot of Black women. What was causing my hemoglobin count to be low was excessive blood loss, and that was during my actual menstrual cycles. And so I had been having heavy blood loss for months, but because I was working myself to death, no pun intended there.
No, yeah, you were literally working yourself to death.
Like literally. No kidding, literally. I didn't take the time to go get things checked out. And what I did not know is that I had 4 fibroids, which is also another thing that plagues women, especially Black women.
Right.
I had 2 exterior to the uterus, 1 within the uterus, and I had 1 behind, pretty much pushing against my colon.
Shoot.
Yeah.
I was about to say, oh shit, but that was too like...
That would have also been a pun, but no worries. The whole point in me sharing and discussing this is that, there were many times that I was very debilitated. I felt like a prisoner in my own body. It was difficult to have to constantly think about, am I going to be able to get through a day without having an accident? Right. This is some very real stuff. Am I going to have the energy? Because what also happened, because I had a really low hemoglobin count and I was losing so much blood, was I had become anemic, which I had never had that issue before.
Right.
And so to try my best to not have to have, of course, the first thing that they offered to me was, well, we can give you a hysterectomy. And I felt like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me there's no other way for us to remove these fibroids, or get me to the point where, where I can be better? The answer is you got to have a hysterectomy. And the more I did research, the more I saw like, there's just not a lot of research. There's not a lot that's being done. I did try some natural methods, which worked for some women, but it didn't work for me. And, you know, after months of trying to address the situation, because I had that wake up call, right? It's like, you know, you didn't do this yourself, so let me get your attention. So God did. He got my attention. He was like, all right, since you won't listen, I'm going to sit your ass down, right? That was the immediate hearing loss. That was the hospitalization. That was the all of that. And so because I've been trying to tell your ass, right, to take care of yourself. And I just wasn't. I just didn't. You know, I was not my own priority, which, again, your health should be your number one priority. And so because I hadn't listened, and because now I was trying to take action, I was a little too far gone. And based on current medicine, current things available, I really had to get to the point where I had to make the decision to get a hysterectomy. I initially did not want to do that. That is not something that I really wanted to do. I tried all different types of methods, to include really watch what I ate, really tried to make sure that I didn't get in really stressful environments. I took teas. I did everything you could possibly do. And I had to go ahead and go through with it. And for me, you know, a woman who doesn't have children, it wasn't even about the children aspect for me. It was about, this is an organ, because your reproductive system is an organ.
Right.
It is a part of me. And now it's something that I have to lose. And not being sure about how I would be afterwards and how I would feel afterwards. Right. Would I go into menopause? Would I, you know, what does that look like? Am I going to be super hormonal?
Right.
I eventually, though, because I was tired of being a prisoner in my own body and in my own mind, I felt the freedom that I would get from having a hysterectomy was worth more than continuing to sacrifice, potentially, because I still was losing a large amount of blood. Right. And my hemoglobin, I had to have also 3 blood transfusions in this process, by the way. I didn't want to sacrifice. I didn't want my body to have to determine what organs to provide oxygen to, which could ultimately, right, depending on what organ we're talking about.
Right. That don't sound like that could end bad.
Correct. So
yeah.
Once I thought about it that way, I'm like, okay, stop playing around with this shit. Here we go again. We got to bleep that out later. Stop playing around with this. Get it done. Right. But I do feel like it's unfortunate, right? We know a lot of women who've had to get hysterectomies. Like we talked about this, like even just within, like when I was telling you I had to go ahead and do it, you rattled off to me a couple of people, and I've talked to another friend who rattled off a couple people to me. I'm like, damn, that's all within a couple of months span, right? Like, you know, in kind of doing the research even for this, you know, even when I was making a decision about it, you know, they're saying, you know, the saying is, or the stat is that 600,000 women annually get a hysterectomy in America. Yes, it is the second largest or the second most common surgery in the U.S.
Wow. Yeah. See, that's crazy to me. I mean, I don't know. That's a shocking amount of women that are having, you know, their uterus removed. Like that's, I mean, but you know, like you said, I've rattled off names, you know, thinking about how many people I know I could see it, but it's still, when you hear that number, it's like, damn, like
that's a lot. And for black women, they say black women are 2 times more likely to have hysterectomies than white women.
Right. But they don't know. I mean, you know, we're talking about health and taking care of yourself, but you know, I don't know. We don't really have the statistics on, you know, the demographics or the lifestyle of women who are having these surgeries.
They haven't even done the research, Max. Right. There is and I should have looked her name up, but there is a doctor who's starting a specific research facility research center in New York. So at NYU, she is specifically trying to attack or tackle and address this specifically, right?
It would seem, yeah.
You would think by now someone would have been doing this level of research.
Now. Like,
right. So
number 2 surgery. What's number 1? Like heart, something with the heart.
Ah, man, you know what? I should have. Right, yeah, I should have looked that up. But I would tell you that she's trying to look at, is it diet, right? You know, is it the food? I think that the reason why women are having fibroids definitely has to do with all the hormones of you know, especially within the meat that we eat, right? And other foods, right? The hormones are the byproducts of animals, right? So she's trying to find out, is it the food? Is it alcohol? Like, she's trying to figure out, is it alcohol based? You know, is it from wine or other, you know, forms of liquor, right? She's looking into that. She's looking into lifestyles, like, you know, is a certain stress amount? Is it? So she's actually trying to do this, and she's the first of its kind. And I wish I can, I don't know. Were you able to find the first?
Yeah, it said cataracts.
Cataracts.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is accurate. This is from 2020. Health grade, the 10 most common surgeries in the U.S. and number 1 is cataract removal.
Interesting. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that at all. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I can find this doctor's name. I wanted to attribute to her specifically. But it's unbelievable. But here's something else I will tell you. Even in dealing with the hearing loss, the hearing loss rates are going up astronomically.
It's gotta be the food, because I also would wonder what the numbers are like in other countries. Like, you know, we were talking about Amsterdam and how, you know, better their food is. You know, they're trying to kill us, man. Like, or they don't care.
I do 100% believe that a lot of this is what we're consuming, combined with lack of sleep, combined with no activity, combined, you know. But I definitely do think it starts with the food and the fuel, right? You know,
it's, you know,
in my case with my hearing, as I mentioned before, I think that it started from what was going on with my reproductive system, right? Because of the blood loss. But I do know a lot of people, and I'm talking younger people, who've had to get regular hearing aids because they're losing their hearing over time. Some of it has to do with headphones, music, ear pods, you know, how we've, you know, kind of come to the point where we, you know, we stick a lot of stuff in our ears, right? Loud noises, things of that nature. But I'm telling you, I might need to look at some hearing investments, because I'm telling you that too. I'm serious. Hearing device investments, like, the number is astronomical. Even with that, I'm even mad that I didn't look that up before we started this episode. But the hearing loss numbers, the hearing loss numbers are out of this world too. Like for real, out of this world when it comes to hearing loss. Okay, here it is right here. 1 in 8 people in the United States. 1 in 8. That's 13%.
What, have hearing loss?
Have hearing loss.
Oh, wow.
And that's in both ears. Wow. And this is NIH. This is NIH stats. Right. 2% of adults aged 45 to 54 have disabling hearing loss. So it over time it's getting worse. And then that rate increases to 8.5% by 55 or 64. So, and I was reading something, the world population, 5% of the world has some type of disabling hearing loss.
Oh, wow.
And that's going to continue to rise. I had saw somewhere where it was talking about what that would look like in the very near future. Mm-hmm. So it's something that's going to continuously rise. But the whole point,
what's the
what are the contributing factors?
Well, no, we don't have to get into that. I mean, I don't know. We already said, people putting stuff in their ears, and, you know, probably what we eat now, especially here in America. I mean,
right. Right. And I agree with you. It would be good for us to be able to break that down by, specifics as it relates to across the world, and like, the freshness of food versus, genetically modified foods, and things of that nature. It would be good to do that. But my whole point in saying all of this and sharing my story is that I have a newfound sense of what it means to be healthy, right? Healthy, wealthy, wise,
and value in it,
and value, right?
Right.
I will never go back to how I was doing things before, because my health is way more valuable to me. I don't put off things when it comes to my health. If there's something going on, I immediately make appointments.
I need to get better at that myself,
Yes.
Just checking on things.
Yes. And although I haven't been able to do physical activity for the concern about not being able to provide enough oxygen through my body, right? So I even had to minimize my physical activity so that I wouldn't be compromising my organs, right? So I'm just excited about being able to start working out again. I definitely try to make sure that I get the appropriate amount of sleep, and I definitely watch what I eat. So in many cases, although yes, it was very traumatic for me to go through the things that I went through, and I have had 3 surgeries, I almost see this as a second life for me, in being able to really, live my best life and to almost reset to do those things that I need to do. So physical wealth is very, very, very important for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. About your experiences and the things that you've been through. I mean, that's a lot, man. And, hopefully, everything from here on up is better. And we both, take these lessons, and everyone takes these lessons, and just acknowledge how important it is to be aware of what your body is saying to you, and how you're feeling, getting that sleep, putting the right things in your body, and exercising. I mean, it's a must. We gotta take care of ourselves.
And the one thing I want to tie back, much like we tie social wealth back to financial wealth, never let, and at least for me, and I would encourage everybody else, never let financial wealth cost you your physical wealth, meaning your physical health, right? It's not that important. It's not. I'm here to tell you, it's not that important. It's not. Whatever it is that you're doing to try to get those finances, whether it's a physical job, it'll still be there. It's not that important. But will you still be there to actually try to enjoy it? So that's my 2 cents on that, even though I know I gave way more than 2 cents. But
yeah, you gave about $2.
But yeah, it's not worth it. It's definitely not worth it when it comes to your physical health. So I just wanted to share that with everybody because I feel it's important. And like I said, I got a new outlook on life, and I'm just trying to definitely stick to those things. And my mindset, because of that, has changed. And so that leads into mental wealth, right? Mental wealth. So, which ultimately is mental health. Because I told you through my experience, I felt like I was a prisoner in my own body, my own mind. And in many cases, it caused me to, feel defeated and just not have the best mindset during that period of time. So mental health is a very good part, or is one component of mental health, or mental wealth. Sorry. Mental health is a very important part of mental wealth. Gee, say that 10 times. Knowledge and wisdom. So the information that you gain helps arm you, on your mental wealth journey. Mindfulness and your spirituality or faith. What do you feel about mental wealth, and how do you apply that to your life?
Well, I think it's a lot of people, including myself, more recently are paying more attention to your mental health aspect of health as a whole, and how you feel people are recognizing that, mental illness does exist, and, people are, being less afraid to talk about therapy and talking to someone when you do have issues, or even when you don't have issues, or, so I think it's very important. And it's interesting, to me, now that I'm thinking about all of these things, how they do interconnect, because, for me, working out puts me in a better mood a lot of times. Like if I'm having a bad day, or feeling down, when I go to the gym, I'm in there for 10, 15 minutes, and my mood is already better. Like, those drugs, those natural drugs that your body produces, are being released into your system to cause
those endorphins
and dopamine and all the good stuff.
Oxytocin,
serotonin.
Oxytocin? No, serotonin. Yeah,
serotonin. Oxy is heroin.
Oh, serotonin. Yeah. My bad.
We're not talking about oxy, but and then, like we talked about before, like the body is really a machine, right? So if you treat it right, it's gonna feed you positive chemical reactions that actually really improve your mood.
Right.
So yeah, I think mental health is very important, and it's something, especially dealing with stress.
Yes,
because the stress factor directly relates to your physical health.
Right.
Directly.
Yep.
So I think, that's really important to pay attention to that. So when you're stressed, those are negative factors that cause heart rate, your heart rate to increase, and, release whatever negative chemicals that actually really do damage your inside. So it's important to pay attention to that stuff. And I think it's very important. I think it's good that, recently people are paying more attention to their mental health, and valuing that, going to therapy, talking more about feelings and emotions, and acknowledging those feelings and emotions, and realizing that, just because you feel a certain way, you don't have to, you have the feeling and you get over it, and the feeling, you don't let the feeling or the anger or things like that simmer within you. You people are learning to release those feelings in positive ways, and I think that's very important.
No doubt. I think it's important too, and I think that when you think about, I mean, even going back to the stress part, it's important to relax. I think meditation is really, really good. Even
helped me a lot. Deep breathing.
Even breathing exercises. Some people choose yoga for stretching. So breathing, stretching, meditation are all good practices. And the reason for that is when our bodies go into stress, if we don't do something to bring that stress down, our bodies are constantly in that stress level.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I had to learn with my physical health journey, right? Is that I wasn't doing a very good job in trying to bring my body down. It was always in overdrive. It was always in stress. And then it gets to the point where your body can't tell the difference when you are or not in stress, because it's never been able to reset itself.
Right.
It's staying in overdrive. And so it's important to, which is very harmful. It's harmful to your organs. It's harmful to your mental health. It's harmful overall when you don't implement the meditation, the breathing exercises, the yoga. I mean, if you don't
sleeping,
from the sleeping, from the sleep, because even again, because I wasn't getting normal sleep, or had the appropriate amount of sleep, my body still never got back to a resting state.
Right.
My body, more often than not, was in the heightened overdrive state. And so, all of those things work together and are very important. And I think from a mental health aspect, and just having that, that mindfulness, as well as,
mindfulness is key. I've walked around in life and not, walked around a lot in life, just not being mindful of my feelings or even things that I was doing,
Right.
just yeah, so it's very important to just slow down. I think that's the key, is just slowing down and giving your body and your mind time to process what's happened, and then to relax, and then you could, move forward from those situations. So
I
yeah.
mean, we can even look at mindfulness and its interwoven connectivity with social, right? So if I'm mindful of myself, I can also be mindful of others,
Right.
right? And so
Right.
we can talk about these connections on so many levels,
Yeah.
and how they all are interwoven, and intersect.
Right.
But yeah, I agree 100%. For me, like I said, I haven't been able to get back and do the exercise the way I want to. I got a couple more weeks of recovery, till I can start exercising the way that I would like to. But I
Mm-hmm.
can tell you, at the heightened stress moments, in my recent adulthood life, I did try to implement some things to try to get my mental to a point where I could relax. And I'm gonna tell you, physical activity, you're 100% correct, is one of those areas. I mean, I'm gonna tell you, I went out and bought a punching bag to try to
Yeah.
help me
That's a
relieve
good
stress.
one.
I
That's
bought
a
a
really,
stand up
really good
punching
one.
bag, and I wanted to put it in my office, is what I wanted to do. So that when I came out of some of the meetings, I could just put my gloves on, shut my door. Trust me,
Right.
my employees have been like, what the hell is she doing in there? But I felt like, I really contemplating putting it in the
Yeah.
middle of my office to use after some of the meetings. And hey, maybe my outcome would have been different. Maybe I wouldn't have went through everything I went through over the past year, but I did buy a punching bag. And I did, on a daily, I had a punching routine that I used to do, just to try to help with, mentally, relieving that stress so that I could have some way to mentally, reset myself. So no, I'm with you 100%. I agree. I agree with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
And so that brings us up to the last type of wealth, which is time wealth. Man, we talked in the very beginning as we went on with, wealth and what it means to us. And one of the first things we talked about was having our time, right? And I had never really thought about, a time as it relates to wealth, in the fact that it is, its own type of wealth, much like we've broken down, all the others. But, time, as looking at it from a value aspect, and its importance. And I talked about how growing up, we felt like we had, all the time in the world, and being rich in time. Some would say, people strive to be a time billionaire. Like that really stuck out to me about the time billionaire, aspect, and striving to be a time billionaire. Time is precious. I think it is the most important, asset. And as it relates to trading time for money, when we go back to the finances, the more time that you have, to yourself, the more time you have to create, the more time you have to do other things, the more time you have to work on all these other aspects of wealth. And so, for me, that this is another important one that I'm striving to get more of, and that's time, because I just feel that there's so much more that I can accomplish, when I'm actually able to tap in, to this part of wealth. What do you think, Max?
For me, I think time wealth, kind of similar to what you said, is just really having the freedom to have your time to do with it what you want to do with that time. To not have to, work a 9 to 5, or to not have that time sucked up by, whether you have to deal with health issues, or whether you have to, just do things that you know that you don't really want to do. And you're never going to have 100% freedom to just be walking around life willy-nilly. But I think that having time wealth is just having that freedom, or having choices on what to do with your time, where you don't have to necessarily be a slave to to institution or organization or something that you don't want to be. And that could also, as we tie these things into other situations, with social, time, wealth. A lot of times you feel like you don't have time to maintain your social relationships, or, sometimes, people may feel trapped in a relationship and don't have time to do the other things that they want to do. So, everything kind of, touches points of other aspects of wealth, and it's important to have a well-rounded entire scenario where things are balanced and on a level, so to say.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the ultimate goal, right, is to really understand how all of these affect each other. We talked about the intersections as we talked through each of them. And like I said, I think we could really, if we were to do some type of mapping or mind mapping, we could probably find, a whole lot of other ways that all of these intersect. But yes, 100%, time wealth is about the freedom to choose. And it's about understanding that, you don't want to, and I see it like this, and I think I mentioned this in one of the other segments, but I also see it like this, don't let your pursuit for financial wealth or pursuit for happiness rob you of your time, right? Don't let it prevent you from, the which we can apply to social, as you just said, which we can also apply to physical, which we reiterate or iterated during that portion, and definitely how that relates to mental. I mean, ultimately, I think if we were to give some value, which I almost don't want to kind of say what is more important than the other, but I think we would probably agree that having time definitely allows for us to do what we need to do for all the others. And that's going to be different for different people. And maybe I shouldn't speak for you. I'll speak for me. That's kind of how I view it.
Well, one other thing, the other aspect of it too, and how you mentioned, when you're young, you think you have all the time in the world. But if you take, some of the time when you're young and use that more effectively, then as you get older, you'll have more time in that stage of your life also. So
correct.
It's kind of, important lesson to learn that most people in their 20s, especially in their teens, ain't thinking about. But when you're in your 20s, you're not really thinking ahead or thinking about it either.
Well, and so you just touched on something, and I think maybe, we can explore this a little bit more too. Over the years, we've talked about kind of how, we talked about baby boomers, right? Their generation, what they were used to, right? We talked about how we're in the cusp of Gen Ys and millennials, and we joke around about Gen Zs, right? But when you think about what was available or what has been available to us over the years and how we viewed and thought about things, we've never really coming up thought about wealth at all in the way that we've described it. Right. So think about if this was taught this way in schools, if it was discussed this way within our families and within our circle, the social circle, as friends and things of that nature, then yeah, you're right. As a teenager or as a young adult, you've already been exposed to these things and how they all affect you in your life as you pursue what it is that you're trying to achieve in life. So I think that has, or maybe requires, some additional conversation, when we want to talk about, as we've said numerous times, finances wasn't talked about in most of our households.
Right.
It just wasn't. Much like how wealth wasn't talked about in our households, specifically not wealth this way.
Right. Yeah, cause definitely wasn't no mental health conversations going on in my house.
It'd be like, girl, go pick up that Bible. Or
did you talk to Jesus about it?
we need to go to Bible study right now. You know,
talk to Jesus.
What you mean? Go pray about it. Drink water or anything. It was anything but
right. Yes.
So when you think about that, right? It's like, maybe there need to be some other conversations had, you know, because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
People don't know what they don't know. If they knew, then they would know, right? You know, and you know, it's just like, but I also feel, here's how I also feel too, though. I also feel that everything we need, and this may be for a whole nother conversation, but I also feel that everything we need, we already possess, right? We do have to go on a journey, though, to unlock some of those things.
Right.
But I think that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, you opening up some other stuff, but I definitely agree with you that the knowledge is there. We just have to maybe be quiet enough or conscious enough, you know, which we also talked about meditation. You just have to know how to find it, or how to hear it, or how to receive it. So
I'm gonna end with this. I think it was Dick Gregory who said, a bird never read a book about how to fly. Okay. Right? So when you talk about, no, seriously, when you talk about, you know, meditation and listening and mindfulness and all of those things, I do think we possess it. And yeah, that bird may fall out of that nest a few times, but he ain't read no book about how to fly. Right? So anyway, that might be, like I said, that may be taking us somewhere that we really don't want to go this particular episode. We can talk about that maybe some other time. Maybe we come back around. But, you know, this was good conversation, us talking about wealth. I definitely learned some things. I picked up on, you know, some of, you know, your perspectives about it I had not considered or thought about. And so I hope that all of you got something from what we talked about. Let us know. Definitely leave your comments. Please do subscribe, follow, like, and share. And we'll see you next time on In Our Bag, Winning Wealth and Wanderlust podcast.